Are you running out of space? Let's add a third drive to our Synology NAS. It is as simple as sliding it right into the empty bay. There we go, we just expand the storage pool.
Is it really that simple? Well, yeah. But there's a few things that you might want to know about doing that. And so I'm going to actually do that live today. Have a Seagate Iron Wolf Pro 12 terabyte drive here, which is the same make and model as the other drives that are in the Synology. They don't have to be all the same model. And it's because I need more space. I have two 12 terabytes in there now, and we'll add a third one today. So hello, everybody. Oh, the thumbnail. I'm going to turn that back on. Let's see. I think if I just go here. Yeah, it shows that. So I ask in the thumbnail, what's wrong? What's wrong with that image? So far, nobody's sent anything. You don't have to look at me or the text or the shells. It's something contained within the area where you see the Synology device. There is something seriously wrong with that image. So what is it? And we'll take topic 1 today will be Synology. So if somebody wants to do a 1 space, put the word Synology within quotes. I now have it automated to where you will be awarded points for doing that. I have emails from people, topics from people. Pavel Novak and Greg M. and Selden Ball are all on tap. If I've missed somebody, let me know. Let's see. I see Darren Gilholm says upside down. Is that it? Is that what's wrong? There's Selden Ball naming that topic. So let's just go see if we get over here. Now, he actually got 2 cash register rings for that because one was for the 2001 points for naming the topic, and the other was, I believe, 100 points for participating in the topic. So that gives us that topic. But Darren, in over here, so I'll go to bottom and then move up. I should see Darren's comment upside down. I don't think it's quite upside down, is it? Come back to here. What is wrong? I'll show you the drive again. So here's the drive. There's no connectors. There's no connectors there. Where are the connectors? Are they on the bottom? They're on the top. There's the connectors. So what's wrong with that picture? Let's go back to here and then thumbnail, bring it up. Anybody? Dealer? Upside down, not quite right. Copycat. Greg M says ass backwards, connectors on wrong end. Darren says sideways. I like sideways better. Now they didn't put that as a 1 space. It would have been best to do 1 space because that's the Synology topic. But all right, I'll meet you where you're forcing me to go. There will come a day when I won't. Ass backwards or bass backwards would be another way to say that. And then let's see what else we got here. Sideways, Darren, that's probably a little closer. What's the issue here? Looks like bare drive with the proper hold. Status light, missing drive should be lit. This shouldn't be having 2 highlights like that. There we got it. Are you missing the sled or screws to mount it? Connector should be on the inside the drive, not by the front. I think that's really the closest that I've seen so far. And he did it on topic 1. Status light for missing drive should not be lit. If it's a drive that you haven't had in there already, agreed. But if it was a drive bay that you removed the drive from, and I would assume it should be giving an error message, but that's not the scenario here. So I think that's right. Red drive, the red drive should be on the other end of the tray. Greg M says tray. So let's get back here. Yeah, so that it's turned, the connectors are on the top of that drive. I can't point to it with my mouse here. I mean, I can point to it in OBS, I can see it, but the connectors are on the top of that drive up where you see the word Seagate, and those connectors need to be inside. They need to go inside the Synology device. This drive won't even fit in that orientation, in that cartridge, in that cassette. Now the yellow light for, I'm pointing to it. You can't see me pointing, but where it says disk 3 on the right-hand side of the Synology, it's in yellow. I suspect that would be the case if you had just pulled out the drive and it was already configured to be part of the array. But if our scenario here is adding a drive. So how did that happen? I mean, that is the image of my, let's see, get here. There's my Synology device up there. Well, this is weird because I've already changed the camera settings and they don't seem to stick. So I'm changing that focus right now and exposure. I'll turn them on automatic because we're not going to spend a whole lot of time right there. But that's actually from a photo that I took of the device up there on the shelf, and I'm not going to bring it down here on the desk. And let's see, get back to here. So what happened there is I asked an AI to give me an image of inserting a new drive into a Synology NAS, and that's what it did. I did not struggle with it at all. I got a chuckle out of that. I just said, we'll run with that. Yeah. Okay. So what I want to do is bring up my NAS on Baby Beast and let you see what it is showing right now for storage. And yes, it is just that simple. We can just slide it in, and yeah, wait a minute. We do need to do a couple clicks though to get that to assimilate. My word, assimilate. I don't think that's an industry word for it. And to be clear, I have not actually done this before, but it's, my checking on it, it's pretty straightforward. So here, I'll bring this up on Baby Beast. Now I actually cleared out some space. Oh, this is showing a warning state. I got that warning state cleared up a little bit. Does this let me I can't double click on that, can I? Is now in warning, please go to storage. It would be nice if that had some link right there. All right, so clicking up here and going to Storage Manager and have a look. And here's the exclamation mark warning. And I think it's warning because it's low on space. Now I had this, I deleted about 1.1 terabytes, so it was more full. Down here, you can see that I only have the first and the second drives in there currently. Issues have occurred to storage pool 1. Let's see, I need to hit another button over here. And that's, oh, here. There, I can see that better now. Please go to storage page, refer to suggestion of corresponding storage pool. So here's storage pool on the left. Warning, running out of available space will affect system performance. Install additional drives, replace drives with one of a larger size or more capacity. Using the Synology hybrid RAID with data protection. All right, now when I add this drive, it's not immediate, as I understand, not immediately all that extra space. It's going to take a while. It may take a few days for it to fully integrate this drive, and it'll have to rewrite all the files, as I understand, that are on my drives currently in the 3-drive storage pool arrangement. Okay, so we got that on the screen. Come back here to the workspace camera, and that still looks a little blurry, doesn't it? All right, I'm going to go with that. Yeah, you know what? I should use my device. That's where I keep my lapel microphone. Going back to my overhead microphone, which is not really overhead anymore. It's just right down here. You should be able to hear me now. Can you hear me now? Yeah, my audio indicator says you are, but the lavalier did not work. Hi, give me a break. Does that one work? Nope. Testing. No, lavalier doesn't work. You're only getting me on the overhead. So we're going to have to go with that. Selden thinks it did work, but you might have been hearing the overhead mic rather than lavalier because I was punching the buttons back and forth, but I never got a graphic indicator on the lavalier. Let's try this one other thing. Now I have both microphones turned on, but I don't have any graphical indicator.
Now I'm going to reselect it and see if it comes. There it is.
There it is.
Okay, now I'm on only the lavalier mic. So, as is sometimes the case, I had to go into OBS and reselect the device. Okay, hit the button. And it's bay number 3 that I need. So just pull this up from the bottom, pull the tray out. And we'll go insert the drive using the keyboard camera. And I put the drive somewhere. Oh, there. So the connectors are going to go into the Synology in that way. Got to take these side rails off first in order to put it in. And it is allegedly toolless to take these side rails off, but I have sometimes found it difficult to get those off. So then I use something to push, some kind of a tool to push on that pin. That worked pretty easily. Now notice I did not shut down the Synology. We don't have to do that to add a drive. So then I put these rails back on, and the pins on this device just goes into those holes. A little snap. Like that. Now the other thing that the animation at the beginning of the video, I think it got wrong. I mean, I'm going to show you that. I punch back to here. That makes it easy for me to get back to here. I'm going to show you that animation again.
Are you running out of space? Let's add a third drive to our Synology NAS. It is as simple as sliding it right into the empty bay. There we go, we just expand the storage pool.
So he slid that in without opening the lever. I don't know if it can be, I don't think it can because there's this lip right here. So you'd have to have that open. And then was there also a, how many bays were
Are you
there?
running out of space? Let's add a third drive to our Synology NAS. It is as simple as sliding it right into the empty bay. There we go, we just expand the storage pool.
Yeah, there were 5 bays there. At one point there were 4 bays, and then there were 5. I gotta look at it again just because I'm fascinated.
Are you running out of space? Let's add a third drive to our Synology NAS. It is as simple as sliding it right into the empty bay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There we go, we just expand the storage pool.
There's 4 lights. And the word status, I think, was misspelled. Just, yeah, AI. What are you going to do? Can't hire good help these days. Okay, so let's go put this in. That should do it.
Put my microphone back, and then go take a look at Baby Beast. See what we get here. Let's see, I think I gotta add the drive somewheres. Pop that out. I've got to make sure I got audio. I do. All right. Phil Stott, yes, drives with similar capacities or higher when adding storage, because if you go lower, don't think that it can possibly work. It's got to have at least the same amount that is utilized on the others in order to reconfigure properly. And it told us somewhere right here, install additional drives or replace drives with ones of a larger size for more capacity. Okay, so the word additional drives, that implies the same size. I'm going to poke around here and see where I add a drive. Okay, here there's 3 healthy drives, it tells us. And one of these would be the new one that I added. Manage available drives. Let's click that. Add drive for storage expansion. I'm not replacing a drive, I'm adding one. I'm not changing the RAID type. The Synology RAID will handle that itself. I'm not assigning it as a hot spare. I could. If I did that, that means that if one of the 2 drives goes bad, it would automatically bring in the hot spare. But I'm not doing that because I need more space. I'm not trying to create a new storage pool. So I'm adding a drive for expansion. It says the system detected one drive that is not in use and can be used for the following operations. Make sure you have inserted the required number of drives for the operation you want to perform. Now, let me point out to you, I did not go research how to do this. I'm just based upon experience in the industry, and that's where experience pays off, is you can just go after doing a task without having to take the time to go study up about it. Although there is still there's a point where you need to know and understand what you don't know that you ought to check up on first. But now, one of the reasons why this is safe for me to do is because all of the content that are on those drives is backup of content that I have elsewhere. So Doug, do you have a backup? Yes, because I have the original content. What's on those already is just backup of other content. If I was doing this for a client's office without having the experience behind me, I'd probably go check up on it, watch a video or something, but I have not done that in this instance. You can assign drives to the following storage pools. Please check a storage pool and click next to continue. So I'm selecting this storage pool from my list of storage pools. If I had other storage pools, they would be showing here. And then click next. Please select at least one drive to add to the storage pool. So it's drive 3. There's only one here that I can choose. So I'll click on that. And then my estimated capacity when I'm done will be 21.8. Adding a 3rd drive, I'm going to get pretty much all of that new space added to my existing space. Because currently I'm around 10.9 terabytes of space. And the difference between why 12 terabytes, 10.9 terabytes, why the difference, that is all, you can calculate the math on that. It has to do with the difference between the decimal numbers that the drive manufacturers give us and the binary numbers that operating systems give us, report to us. So clicking next. Please note the following regarding the selected drive. Not listed on Synology products compatibility list. Yeah, these are not on their compatibility list, but as I understand, it's fairly well documented that you can use other drives. We recommend using drives on the Synology products compatibility list to ensure system stability or updating the drive database at such and such if your drives are already on the list. Important data may be lost if you choose to proceed. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes. I already know these drives are functioning fine. This operation will expand the storage pool, result in unallocated space. If you plan on using only a single volume, you can further allocate that capacity to volume 1 and expand it, which we do want to do. So I'm going to click this check mark. If I don't click this check mark, this operation will expand the storage pool capacity. Built in NAS 2 years ago, Philstad says. I'll get to that rest of that comment later. And result in unallocated space unless I do the checkbox. If you plan on using only a single volume, you can further allocate that capacity to volume 1 and expand it. So expand the capacity. I'm not a big fan of how they've worded this. You can also expand or create a new volume later. Add drives to expand, that's the action we're doing. Estimate capacities, the 22 terabytes. All the data on a newly added drive will be erased. Are you sure you want to continue? Yeah, because what it's going to do is it's going to read the data on the current drives and rewrite them across all 3 drives. Again, I'm not a fan of the way they worded this, because that sounds like it's all going to be gone, doesn't it? Okay, there's no more action button available. I'm looking to see what does it show us about that it's working on it. Let's go back to volume 1. Here we go. Adding drives, initializing drive, 42% of doing that. Down here we see our 8.5 terabyte in use, 2 terabytes free, so 10.5 terabytes, the total between those two, and that total shows up in that pop-up window. Let's go look at the lights. Can you see them? Yeah, the 3 lights are flickering for drive 1, 2, and 3. At time left, there it is, 2 days, 16 hours. So as I understand, I can still interact with it, but it may be sluggish during that time. Let's see, can I go do that? The problem with trying to demonstrate that is that there's a lot of client names in there. Excuse me. Because there's backups of backups. I back up my client computers when they come in here onto external drives, and I've copied all of those external drives to the NAS. Philstad, the new drive will take a while. Yes. Let's go bring up the chat messages here on this topic. So this is topic 1 at the top left. You see the word Synology. And I'll take a look at topic panel. There's no other topics populated. Social does, but that implies there's none that I haven't read. Oh, I must have read it in the general population. Okay, let's go clear all these. To connect, you need to rotate clockwise 90 degrees. There he goes, V. That was very accurate. The light should not light until the drive is actually inserted. Does Synology recommend using drive? Well, how about, I think that's in response to the yellow light. And I was saying that if you have a drive already part of that's already configured as part of the Synology RAID volume, and then you pull it out, I would expect to have a yellow light on that bay for that. But since that's not the scenario, that is Phil Stodd's comment there was correct in the sense of a new drive, I think. Does Synology recommend using drive? Yeah, we talked about that. Phil Stodd, if you add a drive with a higher capacity, most NAS units will only format to the lower capacity drive. Agreed, certainly. In fact, I don't think you could even use the rest of the space for another partition. I think the rest of the space is always going to be wasted. There's Jim. I'll get to that one. Adding 20 terabyte drive to NAS, currently using 8 terabyte drives, will format the new drive to 20 terabyte, wasting the excess space. Yes. Phil says, I built a NAS 2 years ago from a new build Ryzen 5 4600 to 8 terabyte drives. It runs Open Media Vault, very stable and not a proprietary OS. And the new drive will take a while to format and allocate the resources properly. Yes. Jim says, well, this is starting out okay. Yes, late as usual. DVR 2x engaged, because I have not mentioned any of the forbidden words in the Jim lexicon, Jexicon. That'd be the Jim lexicon, is Jexicon. Okay. So they really don't care about checking in on that through the show today, because we know it's going to take a long time. That was back up here, and then storage manager, and 0.15%. That is not 1.5%. That is not 15%. That is less than 1%. And Tony does a test. Okay. Successful. Then let's topic panel. I'm going to go look at the social topics. That was William's office saying hi, Doug. Okay. Emails that I have stacked up. There's Pavel Novak. Last week, we worked remotely with his, it was an HP all-in-one computer, and he bought an HP wireless Bluetooth keyboard, and the Bluetooth element of it wasn't working. We finally solved that by restarting 2 services in system services. So he sent a couple other emails. We've had a couple of exchanges back and forth. I'm just going to try to summarize them. And what was happening is he wasn't able to program it. Yeah, the HP accessory program could see the keyboard, but what good does that do if he can't program any of the keys? So I replied to him saying, check the end of the video for those 2 services that I restarted, and restart those, then see if you can program the keys. He did that. He wrote back and said, yes, that worked. So I sent back to him. I said, you might have to do that every time you're trying to change the programming of the keys, but probably not every time that you're just using the computer. And then his last message, let's see, he says, yeah, you're right, sir. I need to do that every time if I want to make those configuration changes. It's a bit annoying, to say the least. My presumption, he didn't directly say it, my presumption is that he doesn't have to do that every time he restarts the computer. Okay, Greg M., we're going to spend a bit of time on, so I want to remind myself about Selden Ball's issue. Yeah, I'll take Selden before Greg. Selden's had been interacting with me and giving me updates over a few weeks about this issue. Let me get this arranged here. And give you a little bit of background as I remember it. He was being nagged by one of those programs that I'm not allowed to say the name. Rhymes with MS. That was nagging him to use a security key. I think it was probably giving him a few options of what he can do. Let me see if I want to go back onto his earlier messages. They're going to be on a previous show date. He's there last week, he's there the week before. So I got 3 weeks in a row with messages from him. And I don't think I ever did get to address this on a show. So I think we'll go back here all the way to the first one. And Jim's asked, I'll do that before I get started on this. I assume the addition of a third drive is going to make it convert from RAID 1 to RAID 5. Not sort of, yes. In Synology's terminology, though, Synology has this Synology Synology hybrid RAID. So yeah, it is basically what you know as RAID 5, just not called that. And RAID 1 is a mirroring. So with only 2 drives, it functions truly as a mirror. And Synology automatically transitions that to functional equivalent of RAID 5. It's Synology hybrid RAID. So my understanding is they don't really adopt those terms quite as precisely. Now, Jim's very experienced with NAS devices, way more than me. Okay, so let me check on this topic, and I don't know if he's caught up with us yet. Is this all clean? Selden, that's okay about the screenshots. Yeah, this looks clean. So I'm going back to his first email, June 20th. Says, Doug, do you or chat have any advice or experiences you'd be willing to share about USB security keys? Background, a Microsoft website that I use recently started nagging me to log in with a security key. The website is their Bing image creator. Its URL is at #1 below. The USB security key that I'm considering is Yubico Security Key NFC because of its USB-A connectivity. Gemini claims that it's sufficient. We're going to become now, Jim, you heard the word Gemini. This is going to be critical of Gemini. So this is your people here. The keys Yubico, URL below. Amazon, thanks for whatever help you and chat can provide. Now, I do not have experience working with security keys. I'm going to scroll this down and see what else is below here. It's just the links. I guess we could do these links to show what he's talking about. All right, well, here gave a link for you. Didn't do a screenshot, but let's go there. That opens up into a new window. So this up in the address bar, bing.com images create AI image creator. And does it have me signed in? I think so. Yeah, my Microsoft rewards. So I'm already signed in, so it didn't prompt me about signing in. And then the Yubico URL. There's what the security key looks like. So you just put it into the USB port and it essentially signs you in, authenticates you. I don't have experience working with them. Then an Amazon URL for the same thing at $29. Yeah, just there's a USB-C for $29. And then these higher priced is just for 2 of them. And I think he bought 2 of them. So we'll move on to his next. I had his next lined up and he had 2. I had 2 emails earmarked. The following week. Yeah, here, I'll give you the. Hi, Selden. Thanks for reaching out to answer your first question directly. I don't personally use a hardware security key for my daily setup, so I don't have hands-on experience with that specific Yubico key. However, looking at the specs, you're spot on, is technically sufficient for Microsoft's yada yada. That said, before you spend the money on hardware, it's worth asking, do you actually need that high level of security for your account, or are you just looking for an easy way to stop the website from nagging you? Being image creator is tied to Microsoft rewards, which hackers target with bots. So Microsoft has become incredibly aggressive with security prompts there. If you look closely at that nag screen, it usually suggests 3 different ways to secure the account: a physical security key, a smartphone passkey, or an authenticator app. Now, this was, full disclosure, this was an AI-assisted response. I am not going to do this much typing in a response, but it is a Doug approved response. Instead of buying a physical USB key, I'd highly recommend using a TOTP authenticator app like Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, or Authy on your phone. It's free, much easier to set up, safer for most users because you can back up the codes to the cloud. If you lose a single USB security key, you risk getting permanently locked out of your account. Now, if somebody cares to, so topic 2 is already named. Very good. And you automatically got points for doing that. One other thing to check: if you're using Chrome or Firefox and have it set to clear cookies when closed, Bing treats you as a brand new visitor every time. You can actually go into Firefox settings under privacy security and check allow Windows single sign-on or install the official Microsoft single sign-on extension in Chrome. This allows the browser to securely pass your Windows 11 login to Bing automatically, which might stop the prompts altogether without you needing to change your security settings at all. So there was stuff in there that I would not have known to include in a response, which is, again, a reason why I'm liking using AI for many, many things. And let's get to the next one. All right, down here, we'll do that and bring this up. So, Doug, here's an update on my Yubico USB security situation. Too long, did not read. I can't register a second backup key. That's if I don't want to read through this, but it's got some interesting comments in here. The details: Bing finally nagged me again to register a security key. Setting up the first YubiKey worked fine. After I finally managed to get it seated properly. It's a very cheaply designed device with no metal housing around its USB-A connector. Let's go remind ourselves what that looks like. There's no housing around that USB a connector there. So yeah, that does strike us a little flimsy. Registering a second backup key turned out to be impossible. As best I can tell, my circumstance is sufficiently unusual that they didn't take it into account in the design of the change account settings algorithm. In particular, I have two accounts, both a personal account and a business account. Been through this a few times. The latter, which is the business account, is associated with the organization from which I retired, but where I'm still active on several MS365 email lists and Teams chat subscriptions. Unfortunately, both my personal and my business account use the same email address to log in. Now, I have fixed that. There is a way to fix that. If I'm remembering correctly, I think what it gives you the capability of doing is merging the two accounts into one. And that only exists because originally, I think I'm saying this right, Microsoft accounts were personal. And then when the ability to have business accounts came along using the same email address, if you made a personal account with a custom domain name and then later associated that with a business account, then that email address is associated with both of them. And I found a way, I think it was AI assisted, to combine those, or it might have been a Google search because it was a while ago. Use the same email address to log in. Since Microsoft made this easy when I was setting up my accounts many years ago, I don't think much about it. Usually when I log into Microsoft Service, it prompts me asking whether I want to use my business or a personal account. Yes, I have seen that with clients in multiple scenarios. Okay, the rest of this is clean. The account security change web page insists on connecting to a business account and has no provision for connecting to my personal account. Yeah, so you want to get that personal account. Since it's the same email address, it can and probably should be merged in with the business account. ARG. You might consider letting other chat members know about this restriction. Don't use the same email address for both business and personal account, Microsoft accounts. But if it's a custom domain and that custom domain has been registered as the business account, you can't just choose to use a different address, because my address, doug@dougbetts.com, that's a domain name that I acquired. I'm thinking it was like, I want to say it was like 1995. I'm sure before 2000. I'm thinking 1995 because of the house that I was living in then. But I was pretty early adopter of a custom domain name. And that was long before Microsoft business accounts existed. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that accurately. Now, I did some Gemini conversation on this, and there was something else on this topic that I am neglecting. So to find that, I just went over here to search chats, and I did a copy paste. I just copied a piece of Selden's text, and that got me right to this first one here. I'm going to click into that with it off screen, just out of an abundance of caution. I go down these these topics quite a bit. When somebody brings up a topic, I'll spend some time on it because I'm not just spending the time to give the person a response, but it's always an education for me. Let's go take a look at what's going on with topics here. Or let's see, security key. So that was to title it. Didn't make any screenshots. Too frustrated. Greg M. Thing is, one should use 2 YubiKeys for a critical account. Keep one as a backup in a safe place. Yeah, but what he's saying is he couldn't do the second one. I'm deducing because when he went to do that, there was no account outstanding that needed a security key, and he couldn't get to the point to configure that YubiKey. But let's see what I got. Wrong topic. Yeah, I'm not sure why you thought that's a wrong topic. We're in the security topic now. Security key topic. So I'm not sure what you meant. If you posted something else in general without a topic number, then you could just copy and paste it with a 2 at the beginning. So here I'd start out this chat. He posted to 1 instead of 2. All right. So I'll go see if there's something over here. This one. Note that this business account is administered by my now ex-employer. I'm very reluctant. That might be an issue. Might be reluctant to merge them since they are ramifications which I neither know or understand. Well, that's curious. Then you have the business account. You must have used a personal email address to associate to that business account. You used a domain name that is not specifically associated to that business account. Never occurred to me that somebody might do that. I would have thought the employer would have assigned an email address to you that is at companyname.com so that it's unique. And now you no longer work there. You shouldn't be using that email address anymore. There might be something, might be one of those, my teenage daughter would say, "It's complicated, Dad." Okay, did that on T2. So let's catch up. The email address is the account and domain name allocated by the employer. So you should not be using that for personal account at all. Why would you be using that? I don't feel strongly interested in chasing down that question. Greg M., you can use 2 YubiKeys for authentication on the same Microsoft account, can you not? I think yes, but I think the trouble he's having is because when he goes to do that, it's asking whether he wants to use the personal account or the business account. And that somehow is blocking him from getting there. It is traditional for ex-employees to continue work for the employer long after they're no longer active. That's right. You mentioned that you still do work for them. So, and it's complicated to be able to, if there's a problem for getting the employer to cooperate with merging the 2 accounts. And I don't know that you need their cooperation. Okay. Right key for the job. Does not need the more expensive YubiKey 5. Port check. Let's see. I'm trying to see what there was something in here. Well, one piece of advice to share with your chat: never buy just one. Why is Microsoft nagging him? For it to actually provide security, you don't have to disable all the other methods. Oh, yeah, I was asking for that to, oh, this is my question here. For that to actually provide security, don't you have to disable all other methods to authenticate? Because if you have the other methods for authenticating still active, then you haven't really increased your security, you've just increased your convenience. I think. It says you hit the nail on the head. I'm going to zoom in a little bit there and close this side panel. One of the most misunderstood concepts in cybersecurity, referred to as the weakest link problem. Adding a titanium deadbolt to your front door doesn't help if you leave the flimsy screen down. This was kind of a stupid analogy here. And I'd more say adding a titanium deadbolt to your front door doesn't help if you leave the back door unlocked. But a screen door, that's kind of irrelevant. To leave the flimsy screen door wide open, the titanium deadbolt is still going to stop the people. So that was a really bad analogy. To get the actual unbreachable security benefits of hardware key, you need to strip away the other weaker methods. Here's how that works in practice. I'm not going to read through all of this. Just it's enough to get the idea out that if you're going for security, you've got to remove the other weak links such as text messaging or email two-factor authentication, and eliminate the password entirely. Go to passwordless accounts. This shows my experience when I went to Bing. Why is he being prompted? Did it include alternatives? Yes. Is TOTP Authenticator app better? For most users, Authenticator app on the smartphone is easier, free, highly secure. If he owns a smartphone, you should absolutely advise him to use TOTP. I'm not convinced. He's got a reason for wanting to do that with a key, I believe. I'm concerned about losing the key. If you're really going for security, if you're really in that high of a security environment, then they have things like badges and physical keys. And if you lose it, you got to go to your system administrator to resolve that. I see some responses there from Selden, giving more detail. Looking at the rest of my deliberations, this is where I ask Gemini to draft a reply. I read through it to be sure that I'm satisfied with it. Now let's go see what else we got here from Selden. Logging into the business account invokes their own two-factor, which uses Duo, D-U-O, aka DUO Mobile. I don't recognize that at all. Their own two-factor. Okay, so something homegrown maybe, or highly customized. Using my personal account previously had no 2FA associated with it. So I am curious, Selden, did he already tell us? I think he did tell us that it is email address is the account and domain name allocated by the employer. How is that ever considered a personal account? You ought to have your own personal email address unless you were involved in the startup of the company and that was your only everything all-in-one email address where you've got all kinds of personal stuff integrated with it. That piece just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If it's like a family business, then maybe some family members gathered together. Zvi Minor, that is a read chat, please. The squeaky toy, I think. Yes. He's trying to get me to go. No. 1997. So what are you? July 4th, 1997. Now I gotta go find a chat message from July 4th, 1997. Oh, I know that's not what you mean. You couldn't copy and paste it in somewhere. Time 04. Oh my God, you're making me work for it, Zvi. July 4th, that's today, time 0400. So I think he's saying it 4 minutes and 0 seconds into the show. That would be 11:02 my time. Really? You're gonna make me do that? He's giving me his time, and I've got to figure out what that is in my time. He's 4 minutes after the hour. We're not into 4 minutes after 12 o'clock yet, so it's got to be 4 minutes. Oh, God, you're making me work for it, dude. Move top. And I'll go down to the 4 minute area. This better be good. He didn't do a space. Oh, I think he's asking me to go here because he's asking why didn't this go to topic 1? It's because you didn't put a space after the 1. To connect the disk, you need rotate clockwise. And then down here, he did it correctly. Are you just asking why that one didn't work right? Give me an exclamation mark why if I nailed it. Topic panel. All right, I didn't clear. See where it says in the upper right corner, see unnamed. I should permanently name that as read chat. I don't think you can name that topic. Shows that there's one unread. That's because when I went over here, I didn't highlight it. So that clears it. He says no. And it shows up in red. I will put an image. Where did he do that one? Exclamation mark and I will put an image. One moment. Okay. And Selden on topic 2. I don't know how much this helps, but the employer is a research university. I retired from one of their labs. Oh, so they might give you lifetime use of the email address. I've heard of that. And I have business clients who do that, particularly with partners. The law office, when their partners retire, they have lifetime use of the email address because they wind up using it for personal stuff. Not good practice. All right. Now, I'm guessing that I didn't get the follow-up question from Selden. He says, exactly, I'm also an alum. He's an aluminium. Alumni, I know. So let's see, where is that? Oh, I can't register a second backup key. Let's see. Did I ask that already of Gemini and it didn't address that issue? Nope, I did not. The way I know I did not is because I just searched for that text. It's not there. Here is his next reply. Shift Enter just to give me visual separation. And then Windows key V to pick that piece. And enter. I did not ask it specifically to address the issue of not being able to register the second key. There's this link. Zavi, give me a yes or no as to whether that link is related to the YubiKey topic. This is a classic Microsoft scenario. Seldom stubble on one of the most notorious, frustrating legacy issues. Overlapping work, school, personal account. Here are thoughts and technical realities to share with him, followed by a drafted reply you can send back. The cheap YubiKey reality. Okay, not going to read that out loud. The account overlap. Selden's warning to your chat. Whoops. No. It is when you registered. So it's a different issue, not the YubiKey issue. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Thank you for clarifying. Selden's warning to your chat, 100% accurate. Microsoft actually agrees with him. In the early 2010s, Microsoft allowed people to use their custom work emails to create personal Microsoft accounts. Later, when those organizations adopted Office 365, now Active Directory, Azure, it created completely two separate accounts by sharing the exact same login name. And they didn't really, that wasn't clear that was happening at the time. Microsoft realized this was a nightmare for routing logins and explicitly blocked the ability to do this a few years ago. But millions of legacy users like Selden are stuck in the crossfire. Yeah, you can't do that anymore. To use a business account for personal Microsoft account. If the domain name is already registered as a business account, it won't let you create personal accounts or subscriptions with it, is my understanding. The solution, how you can register the second key. Selden does not have to hope his one key outlasts him. He can bypass the aggressive business login routing using two methods. A quick fix, open an incognito private browser window, goes straight to account Microsoft Security. The clean browser session usually forces Microsoft servers to stop assuming he wants the business portal, allowing him to select personal and register the backup key. The permanent fix aliases, that's what I've done before. He can log into his personal Microsoft account, go to his profile, add an alias, a brand new Outlook.com email address. He can then make that new email his primary login for his personal account. I have done exactly this, and it worked beautiful. So you're creating a new email address that is, from now on, going to be what you use for the personal side of your Microsoft activities. And it's a little bit weird that it's called an alias, but that's what you use as your primary sign-in. He can then make that new email his primary login for his personal account. His business account remains untouched. The accounts are permanently decoupled and the routing errors stop forever. And you also aren't asked ever again if you want personal or business, because next time you sign in to a Microsoft service, you're going to sign in using your personal email address, some other email address that you create or you already have that you have identified. This is what you're going to use moving forward. And furthermore, I would want to ask AI this. If that other account is already associated with personal Microsoft activities, and then you make it an alias for the personal side of that school government domain name, I suspect that'll work, but check up on that. If you try it and it doesn't work, then check up on it. If you try it and it works, then you don't need to bother checking up on it. He can then make the new email his primary login for his personal account. His business account remains untouched. The accounts are permanently decoupled. The error stopped happening forever. Then there's a draft email. So I'll, oh, come on, scroll down. What are you doing? Yeah, so I'll come down here. Public service announcement, what's that about? I'm going to click copy there, and then I'll just reply with that bit to your last email, Selden, which might be convenient for you to have it. I was chuckling there because I did a Control V paste, and it does this weird columns thing. I have to do Control Shift V to paste as basic text. Okay, I have fired that off to your email. So I think that finishes Selden's topic. I'm going to go look at Zavi's link, and then we turn to Greg M. Let's see, chat display. He says, thanks, you're welcome. And let's see, he says, which of those are, yeah, those haven't been cleared yet. Also an aluminium. Gemini kept giving me wrong URLs when I was consulting it about registering a second key. At least one of them didn't even exist. I have seen when I copy paste URLs from Gemini, look at the URL. If it has the google.com prefix, delete all the characters up to the HTTPS so that you're only going to the HTTPS. And again, you're welcome. And thanks for bringing the subject. Oh, let's go back here and jump to move bottom. Let's hit the 1,000 points a couple times again for bringing the topic. Go back to topic 1, see if there's anything there. Let's see, I guess I should have done topic panel. Jim says, I have an understanding of NAS only to a certain point. It's not that much more than yourself. Synology is a total mystery to me since I built my own. Oh, okay. Thanks for clearing that up. I guess I just hear you talking about NAS fairly frequently, and it makes sense that it's yours. Yeah, so and it's an educational institution. It makes total sense. You're still doing some interaction with them. So hopefully that bit about the alias will be of help for you. Okay, and then let's see. Read chat. This is Zavi's link, and I can't actually click it from there. So I'm going to come over here and click it from pop out chat. Now, what was the deal? Do we wind up? Well, hello, Grish Labs. Welcome aboard. I see you there saying hello. You found a new channel to watch and you say you're subbing. Welcome. Oh, let's take a moment to get to this. You'll catch on how the topic codes work as you keep watching for a while. Why am I clicking all kinds of wrong places? Doug, we know why you're doing it wrong. You don't have to tell us that. See, I think it's right click and then open a new tab was the best way to get to his links. Okay. Oh, okay. Very good. Well done. Thank you. I'm going to show that. There's nothing there that's of. Is it okay for me to show my registry domain ID? I think so. Well, yeah, okay, I'll go ask. Haven't brought this up on screen yet. Going to a new, because I don't know everything. I'm going to paste that image that Zavi gave me. And I'm going to ask a question. You'll hear the question. Is it safe to show this information about my domain during my live stream? It has to be, right? Because this is public information. It's publicly available. So it's got to be. Of course, there's some things that's publicly available. If I show it on the stream, it could, people who just want to harass me could make use of it. Yeah, so yeah, that's what it's saying here. It is safe. It's public information. So here's what it is. I was saying, when speculating that I got my domain name DougBetts.com, I was thinking in 1995, at least before 2000. So that checks out. It was registered in 1997, and that would have been through Network Solutions, because as I understand, that was the only place to get custom domain names. I've said that a couple times, so let's find out. My recollection is that I registered that domain name with Network Solutions, and I think that was the only place you could register custom domain names back in 1997. Are you able to confirm or deny that? Might as well find out, as long as we're on the topic. Now, the topics, there's no topic 3. If somebody wants to do a 3 space and then within quotes do a custom domain names or something like that, if we think this might be a topic to go on. Oh, look at that. I'm right. Your memory is absolutely spot on. I can confirm both of your suspicions. Look back at history, proves your recollection exactly right. You definitely use Network Solutions. While the registrar on your screen lists somewhat cryptically, the name servers give it away. Your domain is pointing to WorldNIC. WorldNIC is the domain name hosting service owned and operated by Network Solutions. If your domain is parked on those specific servers, it is near guaranteed you register directly with them. So that's point 1, that it confirmed that it was Network Solutions. Point 2, Network Solutions was a monopoly in 1997. Isn't that bizarre? I just find that incredible. They had a lock on it. You are entirely correct. You didn't have any choice. Here's a quick timeline. 1993, National Science Foundation granted Network Solutions an exclusive contract to be the sole domain name registrar for .com, .net, and .org. Just for those 3 top-level domains, apparently. NSF gave Network Solutions the authority to begin charging for these domains. They famously charged $100 for a 2-year registration. July 1997, you registered DougBetts.com. At this exact time, Network Solutions still held an absolute monopoly over retail domain registration. 98 and 99, facing immense pressure and antitrust lawsuits over this monopoly, the U.S. government forced a restructuring of the domain name market. ICANN was formed in 1998, and a shared registration system was opened to competing companies late 1999, finally breaking up Network Solutions' monopoly. So not only is your memory incredibly sharp, but your domain registration literally predates the modern competitive domain market we have today. I have one client who also has a domain name that was registered with Network Solutions, and I'm pretty sure that I registered it for them because it was a CPA firm where one of the partners bought out the company from the other partners, and he wanted a new domain name. And at that point in time, I was already their sole service provider for IT support. That would have been 1993. No, that would have been 1993 that I started working for them, because I left my employer in 1992. I formed my own business 1992. So I left my previous employer then. This particular client was a client of mine while I was working for that client, and I was threatened. It wouldn't stand up in court, but I didn't care to spend the time to fight it. I was threatened to not service any of their any of my former employer's clients for a year. Like currently, it's my understanding that's not even legal to do a non-compete agreement in California. I saw that in one source. I didn't double check it. Some states, I believe it is allowed to be in a non-compete agreement. So that client really wanted me to service their account when I left my employer. I refused. So we gotta wait a year. It was almost a year to the day that he called me and we resumed. Now at that point in time, he still had his partners, so he wasn't ready for the new name. I don't know. I could go check and see when that domain name for him was created, but if we got another topic from a viewer to turn to. I think I covered everything on that. I did. Greg M. Is Greg M in chat? Yes, he is. So checking. And this one, I think Jim's going to enjoy this story. Doug, why do you keep mentioning Jim? It's because he has such a disdain for anything AI. I don't actually know why, what the background is. Someday I'll maybe have a conversation about that. Okay, so I gotta scan through this whole thing, be sure it's all clear of personally identifiable information. Yes, it is. So, Greg M. This is an example of what happens when one relies too much on AI for a solution. This doesn't go well. I have a business client who has several credit terminals on the same network as their normal computers. One of these terminals was in a different part of the building with only one network cable to the other equipment. This remote location also needs to have an internet computer as well as access to a network printer in the main area. In order to have strict PCI compliance, the traffic of these two networks have to be isolated. Okay, so for those of you who are not aware of it, these credit terminals cannot be on the same network as the computers, have to be isolated. The easiest way to accomplish that is to have separate wiring, but he's going to approach a different method here. Legitimately, it was a fair way to go. Gemini told me, no, I'd read that wrong. That's not the way that's written, right? Let me fix the director's notes. Gemini told me that the computer at the remote location would have to access the network printer via its IP address since it would not be able to see the printer via the brother software. Well, yeah, if it's going to be on a different IP subnet. That wasn't the one that wasn't the explanation I was expecting there. There's more to it. Several weeks ago, I consulted Google Gemini. It recommended me 2 5-port managed, not unmanaged. Most of the people that will be viewing my videos are probably going to be doing unmanaged, but the professionals that are viewing my videos, which I hope to gain more and more of those viewers, can find themselves working with managed switches where you can configure each port, each place that you plug in a Cat5 cable, whatever Ethernet cable you're working with. You can configure that with certain IP address range. You can configure it with different firewall rules. You can configure it a variety of different ways. I've done a little bit of that, not much. 5-port managed Netgear switches and an ASUS business router. I gave the client the price of the hardware and labor estimate for implementation. Now see, I don't give estimates for that kind of work. I might give them some ballpark ranges and I will scare them to the high amount. Now, these would be clients that are already locked in and loyal to me. I'm just being honest with them. That is an area that I don't work in routinely. I feel very comfortable going down that road, but I'm going to have to charge you my time for it. If you don't want to do that, then we need to sublet that out to somebody who is highly experienced with doing that on a regular basis. So if you want me to handle it and me to handle the communications with you, it might be an inefficient way to accomplish this. I have used that explanation many times. I have never, not once, had a client choose to use a different vendor. And some of them have come up with bills very, very high. And typically those were actually very complex. It wasn't very much of that was money down the tubes or wasted or paying for my learning, but yes, some of it. And that's a huge benefit of cultivating extremely loyal clients that view you as their IT hero. If they're ever questioning you with these things like, why, what are you doing for us? And we never see you, things like that. Those are the people that are going to be hard to get a big bill across and get them to pay for your education. And I've had clients sometimes say, well, you can use this for someone else. I say, hey, you're the first person in all my years that's asked for that. So it's highly unlikely. The client said, okay, so I ordered the hardware. Since there is only one network cable to the remote location, several virtual VLANs have to be configured. Their traffic tagged to the network packets. So there's one Ethernet cable going out to this location. So what he's choosing to do is use that one cable, and it's going to be two separate IP subnets going over that wire. And one of those IP subnets will be for the computers. The other one will be for the credit machines. Wow, did you hear that burp? Gemini initially gave me a series of instructions to follow to configure the two switches. The problem is that the instructions were flawed. Yeah, there you go. There you go, Jim. The instructions were flawed. Absolutely. I have my ways for preventing that. We'll get into that. Do I have time to get into that? Yeah, I do. Resulting in me being locked out of the management interface of the switches, necessitating numerous resets back to the factory settings and redoing it with revised instructions. So getting revised instructions from Gemini. I'm going to be giving some tips when you're in that scenario. However, these revised instructions had to be revised yet again because of lockouts. Once I got the switches configured, Gemini stepped me through the configuration of the ASUS business router. That did not go smoothly. I've been there. I've experienced that. I know what you're feeling at that point. As the did not go smoothly as the router. AI flawed. Say it isn't so. Inconceivable, Jim says. That was on a read chat, please. Recommended as the router that Gemini recommended was not capable to handle VLANs in the router. So the router Gemini recommended not capable of handling VLANs in the router. VLANs can be handled in the switch or in the router. And he was expecting it to be in the router. And some of the things I say here, like that one that I just said, I feel a little insecure about, but I think it's right. I told Gemini the ASUS router was a write-off. Now, he uses the word write-off here a few times. What he might have been dictating, I don't know, WRITE, write-off, as in a tax write-off, is what he's saying there. It's a write-off. It's lost money. It's down the drain. Doesn't mean that it was the right choice. But Gemini wanted me to persist, and only Gemini, yeah, any of the AIs, they will They will keep going. If you think I'm persistent, so I have methods to limit Gemini or any AI. Only after I wasted more time did Gemini actually tell me that the ASUS business router was a write-off for this person for this purpose with a W. I'm going to stop making the W, saying the W. Gemini then recommended me a TP-Link router, which took 3 days to get here. During this time, I queried Gemini on a network connection for the non-credit card traffic from one of the switches directly to the client's ISP router. Okay, so he's asking Gemini about traffic from one of the switches. I think configuring the switch for the virtual LAN. Gemini insisted that was an error, or maybe that advising against going that direction. That was an error, and that all traffic had to go through the new router. Well, that Ethernet has to be connected to a router. The client has an ISP router, but if you want the computers that are also on that Ethernet to connect to the network resources that are connected to your non-ISP router. Okay, I think I'm trying to come up to speed with the scenario here. For some reason, I asked Gemini for complete configuration instructions for the switches and the replacement TP-Link router. I reconfigured the switches to ensure that they were configured to this latest information. When I went to configure the TP-Link router, there was no VLAN configuration required, like Gemini had tried to get me to do on the ASUS router. I queried Gemini, and it said, I think that there was no VLAN configuration on the TP-Link router required because up here, he configured the VLANs using the managed switches. And therefore, you don't need to set that up in the router, I think is what's going on here. Gemini said, the primary reason the new gateway setup required minimal configuration, meaning not the VLAN, is that Netgear managed switches are now handling the complex network routing, the VLAN. In other words, Gemini had changed the configuration of the Netgear managed switches when it hit. While waiting for the new router to come, he asked Gemini about configuring the switches, and Gemini provided information for configuring the switches that accommodated the VLAN configuration, so that VLANs were no longer necessary in the new router, and therefore ordering the replacement router was not necessary. If they had first gone straight to configuring the VLANs in the switches, it would have been a quicker solution, is my understanding. Gemini never once mentioned that it had done this reconfiguration of the switches. We're going to come up with a really good explanation why that is. Why did Gemini not mention that it had reconfigured the switches? Now, it didn't do it. It gave the configuration settings that he had implemented during that time. We don't have a topic for this yet, do we? Topic panel? No. So topic 3 is not occupied. Somebody could name that topic for Selden. Sorry, Greg M., not Selden. Brain fade. Sorry. Greg M. or VLANs. VLANs would be a good way to name this topic. This means that let's get here. This meant that the ASUS business router would have worked fine, yes. with this new configuration. Even this fact I had to beat out of Gemini. Yeah, it probably maybe had to take a couple different angles at convincing Gemini that they didn't have to order another router. Stupid head. Hey, don't hesitate calling the AI names. It gives you a chance to vent. There we go, Selden naming it as VLANs. Why I feel like I'm going to mix up their names again in this. Sorry, guys. The result of all this was I spent a good part of 3 days going through all this back and forth, configuring and resetting switches, reconfiguring them. I cannot bill the client for all those hours of wasted time due in part to Gemini. All right, I think I will concur on that. I would heavily soften up my charges on that. Let's do that again. I would soften my charges on that. Perhaps under the validation that I had a lack of understanding of my tool, but I would not have experienced that because I have already safeguards, safety rails in place that I would not have encountered that. Even though I feel like I'm at a similar level of awareness on this subject matter as you are, Greg M. So, Greg M., I'm going to continue with the rest of your writing here, Greg M. Such a Doug. I also had to cancel the initial install date. I had to reschedule because Asus Business Router was supposedly a write-off and the TP-Link router had to be ordered. I can give you an example. I'm not going to do it now, but if you'll remind me later, even if it's another show, to tell you about the story that I recently made a substantial error with a client and totally wrote off my time, did not charge them for it. And that was that was not under the, it was sort of under the heading of learning, but it was not something that I felt that I had cautioned the client about, as I have previously described that I would do. Oh, that's the bottom. During this whole thing, I became frustrated more and more that eventually I swore multiple times at Gemini something I would never do when dealing with a human being. I have been there many, many times. Don't feel bad about it, but do find ways to fix it. I'm going to hand you some ways to fix it. I know you've done some work along these lines already. I do not anthropomorphize AI, and I do not treat them as a living human being. After I got everything functioning here on day 3 with the TP-Link router, I'm wondering whether, in fact, the Asus router would be more suited since it will auto-update firmware in the router. The TP-Link requires one to monitor it, firmware release page, and either do an on-site visit or get someone to client side to plug a computer into the TP-Link to allow me to remote in and update the firmware. Now, if you still have the Asus router, it sounds to me like it might be a pretty easy swap to bring it in because it doesn't need any configuration for the VLAN. The configuration that you've done on the switches, the Asus router should be able to just incorporate into that. So it's an easy switch back. I would do that. Now, that is a reason why when I realize I've got a wrong piece of equipment or even a defective piece of equipment, I will put a calendar reminder to request the refund around the 25th day. Like if I've got 30 days to return it, I'm not going to configure the return now and then sit and wait to when I have to ship it. I'll wait till close to the return deadline because when I ask for the return, it gives me then even more time before I actually have to ship it. I will do this in a scenario where I think it might be possible that I might still want to use that first device, or I might be able to figure out what I did wrong that caused the problem. So if you've already returned the device, then it's too late. Okay, let me set up the next phase of this discussion. And the safety rails that I have in place to make this type of situation not go so far off the rails. So again, I just took a piece of his actual text that was on that previous screen and searched for that. And I actually renamed this topic so that I could recognize that as Greg's topic. Okay, I'm going to click into that. Yeah, let's is this the beginning of it? Oh, this is the beginning of that. Okay, so here's the beginning of the chat. Regular participant on my YouTube streams, yada yada, and I've got his actual email here. See, this was totally not relevant to this chat session. This was left over from a previous. He's telling me there he has multiple AIs. Let's see, where is it? We're on topic 3. Gemini, Selden Ball got to name it, so you got the 2001 points. Doug, why the 1 at the end? Well, that's because somewhere down the road when we see Selden's total points as whatever umpteen 100,000 and the last digit is an 8, that means he has named 8 topics, and that will continue on forward forever, or until I change that strategy. Gemini had initially showed a connection from the main switch to the ISP router. Gemini said no, then flip-flopped back to yes regarding this connection. Yeah, I've had flip-flops. And the things I'm going to show you, I think, will help, not totally fix. I asked multiple AIs, all of them recommended Netgear router over ASUS. That was until I mentioned the firmware updating aspect, then one AI flip-flopped. When you're asking AI, one of the things you really need to keep in mind or be aware of is that its recommendations is based upon what it finds out there on the internet. And if there's a preponderance of people liking one router over the other, then it might be going with that. We don't know unless we ask, what is the reason? Why do you think that? Did you just, is that the first thing you found out there on the internet? And then you stopped at that and then brought that choice back to me? Was there some difference in volume of responses that you've seen? So all it's doing, this artificial intelligence, it's going out to the internet, or it already has actually. It's built up. It's not live browsing all the time. It has its knowledge base that gets updated periodically based upon the AI that you're using. You can ask it to go do additional research, and it will. Let's see what that one is. This is why I repeatedly asked Gemini for detailed instructions and network diagrams for this install so that I can verify that it was doable. And then I would ask, are there alternative ways to do it? And why are you choosing to do it that way? But that's not my first recourse. Let's get back on track with what is your first recourse, Doug? Let's see. So this is what I pasted. Here's what Gemini's saying back to me. I want to get to my next prompt. More important than this, I'll probably skim through this. Fantastic real-world case study for YouTube channel perfectly highlights the friction that occurs when IT professionals transition from using AI as assistant to relying on a senior architect. Yeah, okay, well, yeah. Here's one thing. I think the subject line said, here's what happens when you rely on AI, and I've said this a number of times, AI is a tool for us. It is not an employee. An employer might rely upon employees that it has learned to trust and respect. But AI is not an employee, it's a tool. And some days it works better than others as a tool. As if somebody were to buy a screwdriver and then put that screwdriver into the hands of somebody else who doesn't have much experience with screwdrivers, they're probably going to do pretty good with it. However, if one person buys a jackhammer and does a job with that and then puts that jackhammer into the hands of somebody who is not experienced with tools, that could be very disastrous. Well, AI is more like a jackhammer than a screwdriver with what it can get wrong. So learning how to use this tool is critical, in my opinion. Your viewer's frustration is completely valid. Getting locked out of switches management interface, painful, time-consuming rite of passage in a network engineering. Now, here's another thing about this is there is, in a lot of fields, you have to go away for training on something before you're allowed to touch it. To become like a Microsoft certified engineer, QuickBooks certified person, a lot of these, you have to go through training and go through testing. A lot of us are learning on the job. So this, you might think of price tag of going away, paying for a hotel for 3 days and multiple hundreds or thousands of dollars of training as a learning environment. Having an AI confident, and all of those learning environments, you learn this much stuff when you only needed this piece. So it's hard to keep your attention focused when you're away at a seminar and all of this stuff that you don't really care about. It's not the type of stuff you're going to be working on, but they got to teach to the whole room. Ways to do something the wrong way. That's T3. Ways to do something the wrong way, the right way, and the Microsoft way. Well, wait a minute. What about Jim's way? Didn't include that. Having AI confidently walking you into that trap. And I've got a tip on that because the confidence is really, really, really hazardous. AI comes up with said things so confidently. I've got a fix for that. As an AI, I don't take offense to the swearing. I don't have feelings. Hey, let it rip. Let it go. You can express your feelings. It helps humans. But I can absolutely analyze where this workflow broke down and how it could have been managed better. You can do a debriefing with the AI. That's what we're doing here. Here's a breakdown of how the viewer could have structured their interaction with Gemini to prevent this mass loss of time and effort. Define the architecture before buying. Now, some of this stuff I'm kind of critical about. How do I know when to question it on this type of a thing? There's some really weak points in this what it says. The most critical error was accepting the hardware recommendation without forcing the AI to explain the entire network topology first. Yeah, I don't. Depending upon the user's experience level, they might not know to ask this question. So I'm not going to spend much time in there. If you want to pause the video, I've explained before, right-click on your tab, duplicate the tab, and pause one of those tabs. And that's an easy way for you to come back to this and read through it later. I have better answers than this, in my opinion. Guard against the management port lockout. When configuring port assignments, instantly drop the connection. The user blindly applied the sequence, switch configurations. Some modern chatbots will, in fact, stop interacting if you abuse them too much. Well, I haven't encountered that. He says Claude. So if you're abusing them too much, then you got deeper problems. Let's see, that fix I'm not crazy about. Manage the AI's context window. This is important, but I've got a better way to handle this. Over a 3-day troubleshooting session, he told us it was 3 days. I don't know if the chat session was over 3 days. Gemini changed its mind on how the network was structured without telling the user. This happens because AI is predicting the next best logical step based upon the most recent prompts, often losing sight of the original baseline. That's an important piece right there, but I'm going to give you a different way to deal with it. The fix: don't do 3 days of troubleshooting in a single chat thread. When hitting a major roadblock, stop, ask the AI to generate a summary of the current working state. I'm going to give you a better way for this. Challenge the AI when things break. AIs will often try to push through. If an instruction fails twice, instruct the AI to change its methodology. I'm going to give you a better way to fix that. Your viewer learned a hard lesson. AI, powerful sounding board, great syntax generator, but lacks situational awareness. The human must always remain the lead architect. And he says he did a branch during this multiple times. Your viewer, and that's not enough. Just a branch, he did a new chat session and probably a handoff prompt. Okay, so then here what I did is I pasted my AI directives for all chat sessions. I'll go show you that document, and my intention is to give you a link to it somehow, share it off of my Google Drive. I've added a document to this prompt, which I use in my chat sessions, has developed over time. If the directives contained in this file were engaged during the user session, would that have provided a different outcome? Gemini says, implementing this set of directives would have absolutely transformed your user experience from a frustration 3-day ordeal into manageable professional consultation. Your document is exceptionally well crafted for IT workloads because it directly attacks the most common AI failure points: context drift, unearned confidence, and tunnel vision. Those 3 points are very specific. Here's a breakdown of exactly how your specific rules would have prevented the wasted effort. Context management over 3 days. 3 days troubleshooting, but your rules require AI to begin every response displaying the current date, time, and incremental response counter. It's a very simple trick. At the beginning, it has to give a date and time at the beginning of every response. Anytime it misses that, I know it's losing context, meaning it has forgotten the things from previous. And in Greg's experience, it has forgotten the prior configuration conversations. This acts as a clear context loss detection mechanism. If the AI failed to accurately output this information, the human operator would immediately know the initial context window was lost and could abandon the thread for a new one. Furthermore, your multi-day resumption context health checks would have required the AI to summarize. If triggered, this health check would have forced the AI to state out loud that Netgear switches are now handling the routing, exposing the architectural shift long before the TP-Link router had arrived. Now, let me point up here too. It's not just, let's see, it added, yeah, so it didn't actually abide by my criteria. All directives for all chat sessions, it should have given me a date and time. And I have learned that it's better to paste the content of this file directly into the prompt. When it's just used as a resource, it just talks about it. Doesn't always incorporate it. And Greg says he has implemented the date and time weeks ago in prompts for Gemini. Great, but I'm going to be showing you some more in here. And you may have, well, let's just go on and see what. Overconfident mistakes. The viewer blindly followed flawed switch instructions, repeatedly locked them out of management. Your tone and absolutely certainty ban. I ban the AI from using certain absolute messages. This will fix the issue. The AI must instead present ideas as educated guesses, softening language that maybe it's this, I think it could be. Even if it's supremely confident, I wanted to say think, because I'm a human. If it says this will definitely fix your problem, that's like the help desk support training in India. They do that all the time. I can absolutely solve your problem. No, you cannot. You do not have that the background to be that confident. They're trained to say that. If the AI had said, I think this command will tag VLAN, but it's a guess, the viewer would have been significantly more cautious. Breaking the tunnel vision loops. Okay, so here, I'm not going to read through that. I'll just go to my document, and you'll see the current state of that document. Because this is going to bring up my Google Drive, so I need to take that off screen. And you could have this kind of thing stored anywhere. I'm going to show this folder. I have this folder on my Google Drive called AI Directives. It has these 3 directives. There's AI protocols for time slips, AI protocols for coding, AI protocols for all chat sessions. That's what we're dealing with here. So double click on that. And in all of the documents that it creates for me, I insist on a document metadata, and that's, I don't have to tell it to do that every time. It knows to do that. Core rules for AI behavior, version 2.0. It went through versions like 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.4, 1.65, whatever the version numbers were. In this version, it added conversational filler, status checks ban. And there's been other things that I have pasted in here since then that didn't get an update of a version number. Sometimes I ask it to rewrite the whole document for me. Please read, strictly adhere to, prefix, date, time, incremental counter. So the counter, it gives a reply number. Every reply it gives a reply number. And I know around reply 30 is when it's going to start losing context. And I start paying more attention to that. Or depending upon where I'm at in the process, I'll ask for a handoff prompt. Begin every response displaying at the very top of your message. To calculate the counter, review chat history, find the number of your previous response, and add 1. FYI for the AI. So this way, if I apply this protocol after I'm a few prompts into it, it'll go back and count all of its previous responses and correctly give me reply number 5 for the next one, if that's what it's on. FYI for the AI. Primary reason for this requirement so the human operator is immediately alerted when the AI loses its initial context window. If the AI fails to output date, time, accurate counter, user will know the context is lost, will abandon the thread, move to a new chat. Multi-day resumption, context health checks. Whenever the operator requests a context health check, the AI must immediately halt coding, Provide a strict brief summary of current active project, the specific file names, versions currently being edited, the immediate next objective, a complete list of all file names provided by the operator over the entire course of the chat session. I told you a couple weeks ago that I did some experimenting with a local LLM running totally from Big Beast build. It was telling me the graphics card on this computer is ideal. It's going to do great. I supplied it 3 files, maybe 5 files. Yeah, 5 files, small, short, tiny text files. They all had names. I supplied those files as resources, and in the second prompt, I asked it to give me a list of the file names. It couldn't do that correct. And that's where I said, no, this is a very basic thing that it just failed on. Now, I got to that as troubleshooting because of other things more complex that it was failing at miserably over and over. So local LLM, I've been there, tried that. I'll try it again in some number of months in the future. See, it doesn't know. You can't just ask it for a health check. What do you think about your context health check? Are you healthy? It doesn't know what it doesn't know. So that's why I want it to display names when I ask for a health check. Duplicate screenshot image detection. If the operator uploads images or screenshots with a single prompt that appear to be visually duplicate, AI must immediately flag this anomaly in response. And I have experienced that. And so I added that in here because that was a problem I encountered. AI should explicitly alert the operator to duplication. Alerting the operator, AI should ask if the operator intended to do that. Tone and absolute certainty ban. Troubleshooting diagnostics. When diagnosing technical issues, AI must never use absolute certainty or supremely confident language. Skipping over a little bit, administrative exemption. The ban on absolute certainty does not apply when AI is acknowledging, confirming, or agreeing to these core directives. Administrative rules or session parameters, meaning I don't want it replying saying, I think I will comply with your directives. It says, I will absolutely comply with your directives. Asynchronous prompt drafting awareness. Human operator frequently batches screenshots or draft text over a span of time before sending the final prompt. I don't want to give it a prompt and then press enter just because that's all I have to give it right now. If I don't need its response to what I've put into the prompt, I'm going to do whatever other work that I'm doing, do whatever other research I'm doing, and then add more to that prompt, more screenshots. I don't want to press enter until I need a response from it for something of what I've put in there. The reason for that is every prompt is draining tokens, is going to make it reach its loss of context point sooner. Greg M says, my directives are a lot shorter because Gemini choked at one point with long set of directives. I have not encountered that. I have taken the content of my AI directives for all chat sessions, my AI directives for coding, which is longer, and my AI directives for time slips. Maybe not that one, but I put those two pasted into the prompt along with other content pasted into the prompt, and it worked fine. So I've had Gemini choke on occasion, and you might be tempted to attribute it to too long of a prompt, but I don't think that's, I would challenge that for you to test that. Just take a whole bunch of long stuff on a random test chat session and see if it always chokes, because I think that was probably something else. Do not assume the provided screenshots reflect the exact real-time state, describe the event, because sometimes my opinion changes as my prompt develops further. And sometimes I'll actually say that in the prompt. I have a change of mind, and tell it whatever. Always evaluate the provided screenshots as chronological progression leading up to the final prompt. Request missing context, visual validation. Oh, I know, I'll often use a handoff prompt from the prior session, paste it into my prompt, also paste my AI protocols for all chat sessions, also paste my AI protocols for coding, and then tell it what I want to do, and then hit enter. Must halt and prompt the user. Let's see how much further this goes. Mandatory two-tier response structure. For every troubleshooting request or error presented by the operator, you must structure your response into these two distinct sections. I won't read through those now. There's a 3-strike environment reset rule. If we reach a point where 3 distinct proposed solutions have failed, the AI must halt standard troubleshooting and ask the operator, is this a computer you configure yourself, you're intimately familiar with, or is this an unknown client machine? And so it's forcing the AI to put the brakes on. And this is a problem if we've got 3 strikes. And any of these, I can tell it I choose to override that at this time. Let's see, this checklist must include variables blocking our fix, verify, choose where to get apps. Oh yeah, I had an occasion where the reason I was having problem is because there's the security setting for getting apps only from the Microsoft Store was set. And the problem I was running into was not reflecting that. It was not stating that. So it was a hidden piece of information because it was a computer that I did not configure. I was not intimately familiar with. So this is one of the things that's going to say, let's check that. It was not, we were not trying to install an app. I don't remember what it was. Checking with the machine is locked in S mode, checking restrictive user account policies, identifying the presence of aggressive third-party antivirus. And I suspect that list will grow as I come across other problems, other roadblocks. Strictly prohibit the use of conversational fluff. Yeah, chit chat. I don't like that. Unnecessary status check questions. How did the command execute? Don't ask me that. Are you preparing for the next step? None of your business. The AI must understand these questions are distracting to the human operator's workflow. I determine what we're going to do next. I don't want it asking me if I want to do such and such next. The human operator will provide updates and dictate the pace, respond only to the information inquiries provided, maintaining a strictly professional, concise, technical focus. All right, so I'm going to go to that Google Doc and click sharing, share. Let's see, and then change from restricted to anyone with link. And then it's going to set for viewer. Well, you know what? I'll change that to commenter so that you can make a comment. And if you make a comment on the document, that my attention will be brought to that comment. And I'll copy the link. Then I'm going into today's video in studio and come down here to, let's see, where should we put this? I think right in here, reasons to watch, and paste. Let's see, can I, this doesn't have an actual link, does it? For me to name the link. Yeah, it's just going to look like an ugly URL. That's fine. And click save. I would appreciate if somebody would go try that now. You might have to refresh your browser page for the video that you're watching in order to see that in the description. And test that link and give me a exclamation mark Y that it worked. Oh, let's get topic panel. There's something on security key and a couple others. There's a yes. Greg M confirms that it works. So you don't have the ability to edit my Google Doc, but you can download it and make it your own, or merge it with yours if you care to. So let's see on security key, saying that there's one there. So, oh no, that's topic 3, VLANs. Here's security key, move to the bottom. And it still says 1 of 16. There, it must have been that one. Research University, he retired from. That's weird. How did that get not read? I think I know, but I'm not going to bother you with that. And then for the read chat, please. AI flaw. It isn't so inconceivable. And then the follow-up. I know this. The next one, on one of those, there was a line followed up by the other character that says, I do not think that word means what you think it means. And then social topic. That was William's office and Chris Garrett saying hello, saying hi Doug, hello Doug, something like that automatically puts you into the S topic. Chris Garrett used the @LWTV, that also automatically puts you in. He's got 97 degrees or daggers and feels like 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so I got a yes about that. It is, we are a little bit into overtime, not as excessively as prior weeks. I've covered all the topics, all the emails. So very, very good. There's, I think today has a little different implementation of the end credits. All right, that'll do it. Hey, have a happy 4th of July, everybody, and a great weekend. And I'll hit the email address there. And Greg M., you're welcome for the document. And there we go. We're out.
That's all, folks.
Tune in. Days a week for Windows support, the help you seek. Send an email, leave a comment, join the chat. Our tech-savvy crew is where it's at. Not just me, but a whole community, helping you solve tech mysteries. With friends who are here almost every day. We love to chat and help you find your way. So subscribe now, be part of the team. For Windows support and more than you dream. Join the fun, don't miss a single stream. At LiveWindowsTraining-DougBetts or simply where tech support supreme. Where tech support supreme. Tune in. tech-savvy crew is where it's at. Not just me, but a whole community, helping you solve tech mysteries. With friends who are here almost every day, we love to chat and help you find your way. So subscribe now, be part of the team, for Windows support and more than you've dreamed. Join the fun, don't miss a single stream. At LiveWindowsTraining-DougBetts, or simply more deeply VB, learn tech support supreme. We're tech support supreme. We're tech support supreme. Tech support supreme. We're tech support supreme. We're tech support supreme. We're tech support supreme.